If you find yourself here today, let me assure you that it is no coincidence that this message was divinely arranged for you at this precise moment. As one of God's chosen people, your journey is far from ordinary. You may have felt it throughout your life, that feeling of undeniably separate existence, guided by an invisible hand through trials, challenges, and victories. These experiences are things you may not even fully realize the significance of, yet they are working to protect you from unnecessary negativity and situations. Yes, this is not a random twist of fate, but a manifestation of the divine plan unfolding in your life. Curious to know what this means for your future? Stay with me because we are about to discover something extraordinary. But before we dive in, let me take a moment to extend my deepest thanks to each of you who have supported this channel, especially those who have contributed through Super Thank You. Your kindness and generosity have not only been a blessing to this mission, but also reflect your commitment to spreading God's light. If this message touches your heart, I encourage you to like, subscribe, and comment 777 below as a bold statement of your faith and connection to God's protection. This small act will not only help spread the message far and wide, but also serve as a signal to the universe that you are ready to receive the blessings prepared for you. As the chosen one, your life is marked by a series of events that have a purpose. Even the challenges you face have been carefully permitted by God to strengthen you and prepare you for something bigger than you could ever imagine. The decision you just made, whether consciously or instinctively, is part of that larger plan, like a mental shield that has been placed around you, deflecting harm and negativity from your path. What exactly did you do and why? What's important now is that together, we will peel back the layers of this mystery, uncovering the deep ways God's hand is working in your life. So, open your hearts and embark on this journey of discovery. The answers will be closer than you think, and the peace of mind you've been waiting for is about to become crystal clear. Are you ready to see how God's divine protection has worked in your life? Let's dive in. As God's chosen one, you have done that will protect you from recent unnecessary negative situations. Part 1: The Power of Choice and Divine Alignment. In life, there are moments when decisions are made. Some feel insignificant, others overwhelming. Yet, what if I told you that even the simplest decisions you make can shape the course of your destiny? That quiet whisper of guidance you felt, that tug at your heart when you knew something wasn't right, or that sudden surge of strength when you made a decision to step into the unknown. These moments carry more weight than you could ever imagine. And this, my friends, is where the story of God's chosen ones begins. Imagine for a moment you stand at a crossroads. A small decision, perhaps to walk away from something familiar, perhaps to stay silent in the face of conflict, or perhaps to draw a line in the sand. In that instant, it may seem like just another choice, small, even fleeting. But as you reflect on it now, don't you realize how this moment was a divine turning point? How it set you on a path of spiritual transformation and divine purpose? The decisions we make are not accidental. They are guided by something far greater than ourselves, the hand of God. Proverbs 3 verses 5-6 urges us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight. Imagine the weight of those words. What would your life look like if, in every decision, you fully trusted God's guidance? Would you walk in peace knowing that your steps are being guided toward a greater purpose? Or would you still be unsure, hesitating in fear, afraid of the unknown? I want you to pause and think, how often have you made a decision that seemed small at the time, only to realize its profound impact later? You might have walked away from a toxic relationship, said no to a situation that didn't align with your values, or chosen peace over anger. Each of these seemingly small decisions has created a ripple effect that you may not even fully understand. Like a stone dropped into a still pond, the effects of your choice spread out, impacting your relationships, your career, and even your spiritual journey. You see, every time you make a decision that aligns with God's will, it creates a spiritual armor around you. This armor protects you from negativity and distraction, guiding you toward a future filled with peace, joy, and purpose. Have you felt that peace lately? Have you noticed how, since you made that one significant choice, things have started to fall into place? The The doors that once felt closed are now opening, and the paths that seemed too far are becoming clearer. Does it feel like you've stepped into something greater, something divine? This is the power of alignment with God's will. When you make decisions that honor His guidance, you not only protect yourself from harm but also open yourself up to receive blessings. You are now walking as God's chosen ones, those who trust in His plan, who listen to that quiet voice within, and who step boldly into the life He has prepared. Now, let me ask you, have you noticed how things seem to align when you let God lead? Do you remember the last time you felt unsure, only to realize later that it was exactly the right moment to trust God's timing? Sometimes the greatest gifts come when we stop striving and let God guide us. As you continue to walk in faith, know this: the transformation that began with one simple decision is just the beginning. The ripples of your choices will continue to unfold, bringing you closer to your divine purpose. Are you ready to embrace the full range of blessings that await you? Can you feel the weight of the spiritual shift happening in your life? Romans 8 verse 28 assures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Even when life doesn't make sense, even when challenges arise, know that God is working behind the scenes for your good. He is aligning the universe in your favor, preparing you for blessings far beyond what you can imagine. So, let's take a moment to reflect. What would your life look like if every decision, no matter how small, was made with the intention of aligning with God's will? How would your path change if you chose to trust His guidance fully, instead of relying on your own understanding? The journey you're on is not random. It is divinely orchestrated. You, my friend, are one of God's chosen ones, and your decisions are stepping stones toward a greater purpose. The weight of your decisions, even the quiet ones, carries profound significance. Embrace the fact that you are not just navigating life by chance but are guided by divine purpose. Now, take a deep breath, step forward with confidence, and trust that God's plan is unfolding beautifully before your eyes. Part 2. The transformative power of trust and obedience. Let's pause for a moment and reflect. Think back to a decision you recently made, one that perhaps felt like a small act, a simple choice that in that instant seemed inconsequential. But as time passed, you began to notice subtle shifts in your life. It's as if the universe, the divine forces, or the very hand of God began to align with your actions. The change was gentle, like the soft breeze of a new season arriving. Have you ever felt that, dear one? The quiet but unmistakable feeling of something in your life shifting for the better? What you may not realize is that in these moments, when you followed that inner voice, when you trusted your intuition even without fully understanding the reasons, you were stepping into a divine flow, one that was intended for you all along. God doesn't work in loud, dramatic bursts but in the quiet whispers that move through the heart, in the small nudges that lead to transformation. The more we listen and obey, the more we step into alignment with His will, and the more our lives begin to reflect the fullness of His plan. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 reminds us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." The invitation here is clear. Trust God with everything. Trust Him not only in the big decisions but in the small ones as well. Every step you take in faith is a step toward spiritual clarity and a deeper relationship with the Creator. It is through trust and obedience that we invite divine protection and blessings into our lives. Have you considered how trust and obedience open doors? Doors that were once sealed are now mysteriously opening before you, not because of any particular effort on your part, but because you've chosen to align your will with God's. You've chosen to walk in the flow of His will, and as a result, the obstacles that once seemed insurmountable now seem small in comparison. It is not your strength, your effort, or your striving that has opened these doors, but God's hand guiding you forward. The divine shield that now surrounds you is a direct result of your choice to trust God and obey His voice. As you continue walking in this divine alignment, you'll notice that not only are external obstacles being removed, but internal ones as well. Self-doubt, fear, and unnecessary worry begin to dissipate. You start to recognize your own strength and clarity because you are no longer burdened by the weight of trying to control everything. Instead, you are walking in peace, knowing that your path is guided by a higher power. Romans 8 verse 28 assures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This is the beauty of trusting in God's plan. Every decision, even the ones that seem insignificant, aligns you with a purpose far greater than you could ever imagine. Every small choice, every quiet act of obedience, draws you closer to the divine purpose you were created for. And as you align with that purpose, your life begins to change in ways that only the divine hand can orchestrate. Do you feel that change? You may not always see it clearly, but I promise you, it is happening. The ripple effect of your choices is far-reaching, touching relationships, career paths, and even your spiritual well-being. With every act of faith, you create a spiritual armor that shields you from harm and guides you toward your higher calling. This is the power of divine alignment. When you trust God fully, not only do your decisions begin to reflect His will, but they also set in motion a series of blessings that you could never have orchestrated on your own. Imagine a stone thrown into the water, ripples spread far beyond the initial splash. So too do your choices, reaching far and wide, touching lives you may never see. And all of this, my dear friend, is by design. Are you beginning to see the fullness of this? Are you recognizing how your obedience to God is opening doors, clearing paths, and guiding you toward the blessings that await you? The beautiful thing about this divine flow is that it requires nothing from you but your trust and obedience. It doesn't demand grand gestures or dramatic changes. All it requires is your willingness to listen, to follow, and to trust the voice within, the voice of God. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you listened to that still, small voice within you? When was the last time you chose peace over chaos, silence over argument, or stillness over worry? That voice, that gentle nudge, is not just a product of your own mind. It is God's whisper guiding you toward a life of purpose and peace. When you follow that whisper, you not only change the course of your life but also bring about a transformation that goes far beyond what you can see. I encourage you now to reflect on the changes in your life. Can you see how your trust in God has transformed not only your decisions but your entire energy? How has this shift in alignment brought about a sense of clarity, purpose, and protection? Are you ready to step fully into this flow and let God lead you to the abundant life He has prepared for you? Isaiah 30 verse 21 says, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" That voice is guiding you now, leading you to places you never thought possible. The beauty of it is that it requires no struggle, no striving. It simply requires you to listen and to trust that God is leading you exactly where you need to go. As you continue to walk this path, remember that every choice you make in alignment with God's will is not just a moment in time. It is the opening of a new chapter, a chapter marked by divine protection, clarity, and purpose. Your life is no longer defined by confusion, doubt, or fear. It is defined by the peace that comes from knowing you are in divine alignment with God's will. And as you embrace this peace, you will find that every obstacle becomes a stepping stone, every challenge a lesson, and every victory a testament to the power of obedience and trust in God. Are you ready to walk boldly into this new season? To step forward with confidence, knowing that God has already gone before you, preparing the way. Psalm 37 verse 23 tells us, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in Him." You are delighting in God's will, and as you do, He is making your path firm, clear, and full of blessing. Trust in His plan, dear one. Walk in faith, and know that His best for you is yet to come. Part 3. Embracing the divine flow and unlocking purpose. As we continue this journey together, let's pause for a moment. Have you ever felt like something profound is happening just beneath the surface of your life? Perhaps it's the quiet, almost imperceptible shift in your energy or the subtle guidance that leads you to make seemingly insignificant choices that, in time, will change the trajectory of your entire life. What if I told you these moments are not mere coincidence but divine moments carefully orchestrated by God Himself? You see, the chosen ones are never left to walk alone. Your journey is a carefully crafted divine path, one filled with purpose, growth, and the occasional challenge, meant to refine and strengthen you. Psalm 37 verse 23 reminds us, "The Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him." The more you delight in God's will and align with his purpose, the firmer your steps will become, and the more aligned your life will feel. It's a divine rhythm that you're invited to enter into, one that leads you toward greater fulfillment, inner peace, and a life filled with purpose. But let's ask ourselves, what happens when we choose to walk in the flow of this divine guidance? When we trust God's whisper and allow our decisions to reflect his perfect will, the ripples that begin to form move far beyond us. They touch others, they shape our future, and they draw us closer to God's higher calling for our lives. Do you feel that shift, dear one? The subtle yet powerful changes that are happening around you, transforming not only your life but also the lives of those around you? Think about the choices you've made recently. Have they felt like small acts of faith, barely noticeable in the grand scheme of things? Perhaps it was a decision to say no to something that no longer served your growth, or a quiet step in a direction you hadn't considered before. These choices matter. They matter because they reflect your trust in God's purpose for you. Romans 8 verse 28 beautifully reminds us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Every choice that you make in alignment with God's plan has an eternal significance, far greater than you can imagine. And though the steps may seem small, their impact is anything but. In 1 Corinthians 2 verse 9, we are told, "No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has conceived what God has prepared for those who love him." The truth of this promise should stir something deep within you. As you walk this path, the blessings that await you are beyond your wildest expectations. Can you feel the anticipation building in your heart, knowing that God's plan for you is greater than anything you can imagine? The beauty of divine alignment is that it allows you to enter into a spiritual flow, one where every step feels intentional, every moment charged with purpose, and every action brings you closer to the realization of God's promises for your life. The peace that accompanies this flow is not a mere absence of conflict, but the assurance that you are exactly where God wants you to be. You are living in the fullness of his grace, and with each step you take, you are strengthened and empowered to fulfill the divine calling he has placed on your life. Do you notice how much easier life becomes when you stop striving and start trusting? When you surrender your plans and align your heart with God's plan for you, the world around you begins to change. The obstacles that once seemed impossible to overcome begin to dissolve. The chaos of life, which once consumed you, starts to quiet down, replaced by the sweet sound of divine peace. The doors that were once closed slowly begin to open, guiding you to opportunities you never thought possible. This is the power of divine alignment. Isaiah 30 verse 21 reminds us, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" This inner voice, the still, quiet whisper of God, guides you in every step, helping you make decisions that align you with his perfect will. Have you noticed how following that voice leads you to places of peace and fulfillment? Have you experienced the joy that comes from knowing you are walking in step with the Creator of the universe? The truth is, you are never alone on this journey. The God who created you, the one who formed you with intention and purpose, walks with you every step of the way. You are God's chosen one, and as such, you are always under his protection. As you move forward, trusting in his guidance, God himself is fighting on your behalf. This is the protection that no human force can touch. This is the assurance that no weapon formed against you will prosper. Isaiah 54 verse 17 promises, "No weapon formed against you will prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn." You, dear one, are protected, empowered, and positioned to fulfill the unique purpose that God has set before you. But there is more. Your obedience to God's call not only transforms your life, but also has a ripple effect, touching the lives of those around you. Do you realize how powerful your presence is in the world? When you walk in alignment with God, your life becomes a testimony, a beacon of hope, love, and faith that shines brightly for others to see. Matthew 5 verses 14 to 16 tells us, You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. As you walk in alignment with God, you become a living example of what's possible when we trust Him fully. Your faith becomes contagious, sparking hope in others and inviting them to step into their own divine calling. Your journey, though personal, is not just for you. It is part of a larger story, one that God is weaving through the lives of all His children. Every step you take in faith becomes a light that illuminates the way for others. So, let me ask you, are you ready to embrace this divine flow? To walk confidently knowing that God's hand is guiding you, that your choices matter, and that you are becoming the person He always intended you to be? What would happen if you fully trusted His guidance and let His peace rule your heart? Can you imagine how your life might change if you embraced the divine transformation that God has in store for you? This is not the end of the journey, but the beginning of something new. Every choice, every step of obedience, every act of faith is leading you to a greater purpose, a life that is full of peace, joy, and divine blessing. Are you ready to step into this new chapter of your life, knowing that the best is yet to come? Part 4. Divine Protection and Stepping into Abundance. We've explored the profound power of aligning our lives with God's will. But now, I want to pause and ask you this. How does it feel to know that as one of God's chosen people, you are walking under the safeguard of divine protection? Have you ever paused to reflect on the times in your life when, despite challenges, you felt an unseen force shielding you, guiding you, and providing for you in ways you couldn't have imagined? This is not by chance, my dear friend, but the result of walking in alignment with God's divine purpose for you. You see, when we step into God's purpose, we are not just protected from the physical dangers that surround us. More importantly, we are shielded from the spiritual battles that threaten our peace and our faith. These battles manifest as self-doubt, discouragement, toxic relationships, and the constant noise of the world telling us who we should be. But when we align ourselves with God's voice, we are given spiritual armor, a protection that helps us rise above these distractions and find clarity in the midst of confusion. Consider the words of Psalm 91 verse 11, which promises, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Think about it. God's angels, His divine protectors, are constantly watching over you, ensuring that nothing can harm you. That divine protection surrounds you, safeguarding your journey and allowing you to move forward in faith, undistracted and unhindered. Every decision, every moment of obedience, activates this shield, allowing you to walk confidently toward God's promises. But let's ask ourselves, how often do we realize the magnitude of this protection? How many times have we been saved from situations that could have derailed us, or spared from people who could have caused harm without even knowing it? This divine protection doesn't always announce itself with a loud voice or a dramatic sign. Instead, it manifests as an inner peace that calms our hearts when things seem uncertain. The quiet assurance that you are safe, that you are where you need to be, and that God's hand is upon you. What if I told you that this protection isn't just about shielding you from harm? It's also about guiding you to the life of abundance that God has set aside for you. Think about the promises that God has made to those who trust in Him, those who walk in alignment with His plan. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." This promise isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving, moving into a future filled with abundance, joy, and purpose. This alignment you have embraced, by choosing to trust God's plan and follow His guidance, sets the stage for blessings to flow into your life. Doors that were once closed begin to open. Opportunities that seemed impossible start to materialize. But how? The answer lies in the energy you have aligned yourself with. When you live in sync with God's will, your spirit vibrates in harmony with the universe, and the blessings that were always meant for you begin to find their way to you. This is not just a passive experience, it is an active one. As Romans 8 verse 31 reminds us, if God is for us, who can be against us? Do you understand the power of that question? If God is for you, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, that can stand in your way. This means that every obstacle you face is just another stepping stone in the greater plan that God is unfolding in your life. Each trial is preparing you for something greater. Each challenge is building your character and your faith. But it doesn't stop there. Your transformation is not only a personal journey, it is a beacon for others. When you walk in alignment with God's purpose, you become a living testimony of His grace and power. Matthew 5 verse 16 tells us, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Your life, your choices, and your journey of faith are meant to inspire others to walk in their own divine calling. Do you realize the ripple effect you create? Just as your obedience to God's will has transformed your life, it will also lead others to find the path that God has set for them. Imagine, for a moment, the influence your life has on the world around you. How many people are watching you, noticing the change in your spirit, and wondering how they can experience that same peace and purpose? You, God's chosen, are a vessel of light, and your life is a reflection of His goodness. When you allow God to guide your every step, you invite others to step into that same divine flow, walking in the light of His love and favor. But even as you walk this path of abundance and protection, remember this: it is not just about material blessings. The true gift of walking in alignment with God's plan is the deep spiritual peace and joy that comes from knowing you are fulfilling your divine purpose. This is the true treasure that God has set aside for you. As Philippians 4 verse 7 tells us, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This peace is not just the absence of conflict. It is the presence of God in your life. It is the assurance that, no matter what happens around you, you are secure in His love and protection. Can you feel that peace right now, filling your heart, guarding your spirit, and keeping your mind at rest? Now, take a moment and ask yourself, how can I embrace this divine protection more fully in my life? How can I step into greater abundance, knowing that I am aligned with God's will? And how can I shine my light even brighter for others to see and glorify Him? Remember, God's chosen ones are never left to wander. You are not alone on this journey. His protection, guidance, and blessings are with you every step of the way. The road may not always be smooth, and challenges may arise. But with each step you take in faith, you are being led to a life of purpose, peace, and abundance. This is the life God has always intended for you. Part 5. Trusting God's timing and embracing spiritual growth. As we continue this journey together, I want to ask you this: how often do you truly trust in God's timing? How often do you pause to realize that your life is unfolding exactly as it was meant to, according to His divine will? It's easy, in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, to lose sight of the bigger picture. But today, I want you to step back and look at the path you've walked with the eyes of faith. God's chosen ones are never walking aimlessly. Every step you take, no matter how insignificant it may seem at the time, is part of a greater divine purpose. The journey of faith you are on has already been written, and every trial, every triumph, and every decision you make is carefully placed on the path that God has set before you. The key here is to trust in His timing, to recognize that every season in your life, whether of growth, struggle, or rest, has a purpose. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 reminds us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." In those moments when things feel uncertain or when you find yourself waiting for something to shift in your life, remember this truth: there is a time for everything. Trust that God's timing is always perfect, even when it doesn't align with your own expectations or desires. Your waiting seasons, those moments of stillness and silence, are not periods of wasted time. They are periods of preparation, refinement, and growth. Think about the moments in your life where you felt like nothing was happening. Have you ever asked yourself, why is this taking so long? Or, why am I not where I thought I would be by now? These feelings are normal, but they also serve as a reminder that God's ways are not our ways. As Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts. You may not see the full picture right now, but trust that God is orchestrating everything for your good and His glory. What if I told you that every moment of waiting is preparing you for something far greater than you could ever imagine? This is the essence of faith. It's trusting that God's plan is unfolding, even when we don't fully understand it. And the beauty of it is that your waiting doesn't equate to inaction. It is a time of spiritual growth. You are being shaped, molded, and refined to become the person God has always intended you to be. Let's take a moment to reflect. Think about the struggles, challenges, and even the delays in your life. How have these experiences shaped you? In what ways have they strengthened your faith or brought you closer to your true purpose? Have you noticed how God has been working in the background, preparing you for the next step on your journey, even during the moments when you thought nothing was happening? In times of waiting, our spiritual growth accelerates. It's in the silence, in the stillness, that we hear God's voice most clearly. It's when we release the need for control and surrender to His will that He begins to work within us. It is in those moments when we don't understand what's happening around us that we develop a deeper trust in God's plan for us. Psalm 37 verse 7 says, "Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for Him." This stillness is not a passive waiting. It is a waiting with expectation, knowing that God is doing a mighty work in you. God's chosen ones understand that their lives are not random. They understand that every decision, every season, and every challenge is part of the divine narrative God is writing. Every struggle you face, every setback you encounter, is preparing you to be the person God needs you to be in this season and the next. These moments are not setbacks, they are setups for something greater. Reflect on the words of Romans 8 verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Have you ever stopped to truly consider how deeply this promise resonates with you? Everything in your life, the highs and lows, the victories and defeats, God is using it all for your good. Even when you don't understand the purpose behind a particular moment, rest assured that He is at work, shaping you into the person He has called you to be. Now, let's dive deeper into spiritual growth. What does it mean to grow spiritually? Spiritual growth is not just about acquiring knowledge or understanding. It is about becoming more aligned with God's will and His divine plan for your life. It's about learning to trust Him more deeply and embracing the peace and purpose He has set before you. Consider the spiritual transformation that happens when you let go of your own desires and yield to God's plan. As Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." This trust is a deep, unshakable belief that God's timing is perfect and that He is actively guiding your steps. As you learn to lean less on your own understanding and more on God's divine guidance, you begin to experience a new level of peace and clarity in your life. Spiritual growth also involves developing the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Galatians 5 verses 22 to 23. These qualities are not simply acquired through effort or striving. They are the result of God's presence working in you. Your obedience, no matter how small, cultivates these fruits, making you a vessel of God's light, love, and wisdom in the world. Are you ready to let go of the control and surrender fully to God's plan? Are you ready to walk in His timing, knowing that He is preparing you for something far greater than you can imagine? The waiting, the quiet moments of uncertainty, are simply opportunities for your spiritual muscles to grow stronger. Your faith is being tested, refined, and made unshakable so that you can step into the abundant life God has designed for you. Remember, this is just the beginning. As you continue on this journey of faith, God's plan for your life will continue to unfold, bringing you closer to your purpose and your divine calling. The blessings He has in store for you are beyond what you could ever dream. It is time to trust His timing, embrace your spiritual growth, and know that every moment, every decision, has led you to this extraordinary place. Are you ready to step boldly into the life God has prepared for you? Trust in Him, trust in His plan, and know that the best is yet to come. As Jeremiah 29 verse 11 reminds us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future." Part 6. Living in alignment with God's purpose and embracing spiritual resilience. As we continue to explore your journey, I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, how much do you truly understand the power of your purpose? We often go through life chasing after things that seem important at the time: success, approval, validation from others. But as one of God's chosen ones, your life is marked by a deeper calling, a calling that transcends the temporary and reaches into the eternal. Living in alignment with God's purpose is more than simply following a set of rules or achieving external goals. It is about tuning your soul to God's will, walking confidently in His plans, and knowing that He has already prepared the way for you. Psalm 23 verse 1 declares, "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing." When you live in alignment with His purpose, you lack nothing. Everything you need is provided by His hand. But living in alignment doesn't mean that the road will always be smooth. Life, in all its beauty and complexity, is full of challenges. As one of God's chosen, you will face obstacles, trials, and seasons of difficulty. But here's the difference. Your foundation is spiritual resilience, the ability to rise above challenges with unwavering faith, knowing that God is with you every step of the way. Romans 8 verse 37 reminds us, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through Him who loved us." You are more than a conqueror. Your resilience is forged in the fires of adversity, and each trial becomes an opportunity for spiritual growth and empowerment. What if I told you that challenges are not a sign of God's absence in your life, but rather a sign of His presence guiding you through them? James 1 verses 2 to 3 encourages us, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Your challenges are part of God's divine plan to build you, to strengthen you, and to draw you closer to Him. Consider this: what would your life look like if you embrace challenges as stepping stones to a stronger, more resilient spirit? What if you trusted that every struggle you face has a purpose, and instead of shying away from it, you stood firm in the knowledge that God's protection surrounds you? As Isaiah 41 verse 10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." You are never alone in your struggles. God is by your side, strengthening you and helping you navigate every challenge. The essence of spiritual resilience is rooted in trusting God's plan, even when it feels uncertain or challenging. It means facing the storms of life with the assurance that God's promises are true, and that His divine protection surrounds you at all times. This protection is not just about keeping you from harm. It is about guiding you, empowering you, and leading you to places of abundance and peace. Your resilience is built on the unshakable belief that God is faithful, that He will never leave you, and that He will carry you through whatever comes your way. Let's reflect on that for a moment. How often do you take time to recognize the ways God is guiding and protecting you? In the rush of life, it's easy to forget how deeply God's hand is at work behind the scenes. When you pause and recognize it, you begin to see that His protection and guidance are with you in every moment, whether in the quiet stillness of your thoughts or in the midst of a storm. Living authentically is another critical element of spiritual alignment. As God's chosen ones, you are called to be true to yourself, not in the superficial sense of following worldly desires, but in the profound sense of embracing your God-given identity. The journey to living authentically begins with understanding that you are deeply loved and chosen by God. Jeremiah 1 verse 5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you. Before you were born I set you apart." You are not an accident. You were created with a divine purpose, and when you align your actions with that purpose, you live authentically and reflect God's light to the world. What does it mean to live authentically in God's purpose? It means being true to your calling, your values, and your beliefs, no matter the external pressures that might tempt you to conform. It means letting go of the need to please others or to fit into molds that were never meant for you. Matthew 5 verses 14 to 16 says, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. When you live authentically, you are letting your light shine, and that light draws others to God. Living authentically also means embracing your uniqueness. God's chosen ones are not called to be copies of others. They are called to reflect His glory in their own unique way. Each of us carries a unique calling, a unique set of gifts, and a unique purpose that only we can fulfill. Psalm 139 verse 14 says, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." You are a masterpiece of God's design, and when you walk in that truth, you shine with a brilliance that the world can't ignore. As you continue to live authentically, you will find that God's peace settles over your life in a way that transforms every aspect of your being. Philippians 4 verse 7 tells us, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." This peace is not a fleeting emotion. It is a profound sense of calm and assurance that comes from knowing you are aligned with God's will. It is the peace that anchors you in the storm, the peace that allows you to keep moving forward even when life feels overwhelming. Have you ever experienced this peace in the midst of chaos? It's the kind of peace that doesn't make sense to the world but makes perfect sense to the chosen ones of God. This peace flows from the understanding that you are walking in alignment with God's plan for your life, and that no matter what happens, He is with you, guiding you, and protecting you. As we conclude this part of your journey, I want you to think about this. How can you embrace your authenticity and spiritual resilience moving forward? How can you deepen your trust in God's timing and let go of your need to control the outcome? When you step into alignment with God's purpose for your life, you will find that everything begins to flow with ease. You will experience God's protection more profoundly, and your spiritual resilience will enable you to face challenges with confidence, knowing that God is leading you to greater blessings and a life of purpose. You, as one of God's chosen ones, are not just surviving, you are thriving. And as you continue to walk in God's power, your journey will become a testimony to His greatness, inspiring others to step into their own divine calling. Part 7. The Ripple Effect of Divine Alignment and Spiritual Growth. As we reach the next chapter of this transformative journey, I want you to ask yourself, what does it mean to truly align with the divine flow that God has set for you? The question is not just philosophical. It is a challenge to embrace the divine rhythm that exists within the universe, a rhythm that you were born to follow. You are not simply a bystander in life. You are a participant, a vessel of God's light that reflects His glory to those around you. And in this part of the journey, we are going to explore just how powerful your spiritual growth and alignment with God's purpose can be, not just for you, but for everyone in your life. The beauty of divine alignment is that it doesn't only affect your life, it affects the world around you. Psalm 37 verse 23 tells us, "The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and He delighteth in His way." Every step you take in alignment with God's purpose has a ripple effect, like a pebble thrown into the water, sending out waves of transformation. You may not see it immediately, but each decision you make, no matter how small, sends vibrations through the universe, impacting your relationships, your community, and your destiny. Imagine this. Have you ever made a choice in your life that felt so right that, even though you couldn't see the full picture, you knew it was leading you in the right direction? That is the divine nudge, the gentle pull from God guiding you on the path He has already prepared for you. And as you follow that path, you will see how each step begins to open doors you never imagined. Isaiah 55 verses 8 to 9 says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." God's plan for you is far greater than any plan you could devise on your own. But it doesn't stop there. The ripple effect of divine alignment is far-reaching. Romans 8 verse 28 reassures us, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." When you align yourself with God's purpose, you are not only changing your life, you are changing the lives of everyone you encounter. Have you ever felt that subtle yet undeniable influence you have on those around you? Perhaps someone noticed a shift in you, or maybe you inspired someone to make a positive change in their own life. That is the divine ripple effect at work. As God's chosen ones, your presence in this world is not meant to be hidden or insignificant. Your light, when aligned with God's will, shines brightly. Matthew 5 verses 14 to 16 reminds us, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Your authenticity, your decisions, and your life are reflections of God's purpose, and they shine as a beacon to others who are searching for light in the darkness. Do you ever think about how your choices might inspire others to step into their own calling? It's often easy to overlook the quiet, subtle impact you have on the world, but rest assured, God is using your life as a testimony of His greatness. When you choose to align with His purpose, not only do you receive the blessings He has for you, but you become a channel for those blessings to flow to others. Your faith, your choices, your perseverance in the face of trials, they are all part of God's greater plan to bring His light into the world. Consider the power of your testimony. Have you ever heard someone's story, a story of struggle, victory, and transformation, and thought, "I want that for my life"? Your story, just like those who have gone before you, has the potential to inspire someone to step into their divine calling, just as Romans 12 verses 1 to 2 urges us. "Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." When you align with God's will, you become a living testimony, a beacon that draws others to Him. But what is the key to unlocking this divine potential? How do you ensure that you continue to walk in alignment with God's purpose, especially as you face the challenges that life throws at you? The answer lies in maintaining a deep, intimate connection with God, in trusting His guidance and learning to listen to His still, small voice. John 10 verse 27 says, "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." When you listen to God's voice and follow His lead, you will find yourself constantly aligned with His purpose. You may not always understand the journey, but you can rest assured that God is with you every step of the way, guiding you to greater fulfillment. But there's more to this journey. The deeper you move into alignment with God, the more your spiritual resilience will grow. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulties, but about how you respond to them. 2 Corinthians 12 verse 9 tells us, "But He said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Your resilience is rooted in the understanding that even in your weakest moments, God's grace is sufficient to carry you through. As you continue to grow in faith and trust, your spiritual muscles will strengthen, and you will face life's obstacles with a confidence that is unshakable. Have you ever experienced a moment when you felt weak, but in that weakness you found God's strength more evident than ever? This is the beauty of spiritual resilience. It is born in the trials, it flourishes in your surrender to God, and it prepares you for the greater purposes He has for you. Every trial you face is not just a hurdle to overcome. It is an opportunity to deepen your faith and grow in your understanding of God's will for your life. With each step, you become more rooted in His love, more anchored in His promises, and more determined to fulfill the unique calling He has placed on your life. Your alignment with God's purpose does not just change your life. It impacts the lives of everyone you encounter. You become a beacon of hope, a light in the darkness, and a living example of what is possible when you trust in God and follow His plan. The ripple effect of your life will continue to expand, reaching further than you could ever imagine, touching lives, transforming hearts, and bringing more souls into alignment with the divine calling God has set for them. So, I ask you once more, how will you embrace the ripple effect of divine alignment? How will you continue to walk in faith, trusting that every step you take brings you closer to the extraordinary life God has planned for you. The best is yet to come, and you, chosen one, are right where you need to be. Part 8. Living in the abundance of God's promises. As we continue our journey together, I want you to take a deep breath and consider something very important. Are you living in alignment with the abundance that God has promised you? We often talk about abundance in terms of wealth, success, or possessions. However, the true abundance that God speaks of is not measured by the tangible things we accumulate, but by the spiritual wealth we receive when we align ourselves with His will. John 10 verse 10 gives us a profound promise. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. This fullness is not about materialism. It's about living a life full of peace, purpose, and joy, a life that overflows because it is deeply connected to God. The abundance God offers is a spiritual abundance, and it begins the moment we surrender to His guidance and trust in His divine plan. When you walk in alignment with God's purpose, you open yourself up to a life that is rich in peace and overflowing with blessings that cannot be counted by the world's standards. Have you ever experienced the kind of peace that surpasses understanding? It's that peace that can only come from knowing you are in the center of God's will, that no matter what the world throws at you, you are secure in His promises. But in order to live in this abundance, we must learn to trust. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6 encourages us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to Him, and He will make your paths straight." The act of trusting God with your life, even when things seem uncertain, will open doors of abundance in ways you cannot yet imagine. Trusting Him allows you to enter into a season of divine favor, where His provision, wisdom, and peace will flood every area of your life. Now, let me ask you something. What are the areas in your life that you still hold on to in fear, instead of surrendering them to God's control? Is it your finances, your relationships, or perhaps your future? Isaiah 55 verse 9 reminds us that, "As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts." When we align our thinking with God's will and let go of our need to control every detail, we begin to experience His divine abundance. This is not just a future promise, it is available to you now. The challenge is to begin trusting in God's timing, His wisdom, and His plan for your life. Psalm 37 verse 4 says, "Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." Your desires are not just fleeting wants. They are part of the divine purpose God has woven into the fabric of your life. The more you trust Him, the more He aligns your desires with His own, and you begin to experience the fullness of what it means to live in abundance. But how do we truly experience this abundance? The key lies in gratitude and obedience. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 18 tells us to give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. When you cultivate an attitude of gratitude, even in the midst of trials, you invite God's presence into your life in a profound way. Gratitude shifts your perspective, and suddenly, you begin to see the many ways God has already provided for you, even when it doesn't look like what you expected. Every single decision you make from this point forward can be a reflection of that trust. The more you trust in God's goodness, the more you will see His abundance in your life. You will no longer be controlled by fear or doubt, but will walk in the confidence of His provision and protection. In Matthew 6 verse 33, Jesus tells us, "But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." When you seek God's kingdom first, everything else falls into place. And here's something to reflect on. Are you truly seeking His kingdom first? Not just in prayer or church, but in your daily decisions, your relationships, your work, and your finances. When you put God's will at the center of everything you do, you will find that true abundance is not about what you accumulate, but about how deeply you experience God's presence in every area of your life. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a vast ocean, and you are about to take a step into its waters. The waves are gentle, inviting you in. You may be unsure at first, but as you step forward, you feel the weight of your burdens begin to lighten. The ocean is deep, boundless, and full of life. As you venture further, the waters surround you, and you realize that this abundance is not something to be chased or earned. It is something to be received. This is what walking in alignment with God feels like. It's the peaceful surrender to His will, knowing that the abundance you seek is already there for you to experience. God's promises are real, and they are available to those who trust in Him. But here's the reality. You cannot walk in divine abundance without first making space for it. What does that mean for you in practical terms? It means releasing what no longer serves you, whether that's toxic relationships, unhealthy habits, or limiting beliefs. It means walking away from fear and doubt and embracing the new opportunities God has set before you. It means choosing to trust in His provision, knowing that your steps are being directed by the One who holds your future in His hands. Think of this as a spiritual spring cleaning, removing the clutter in your life, both physically and emotionally, to make room for God's blessings. Ephesians 3 verse 20 reminds us that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. When you make room for God's presence, His power begins to work in you and through you in ways that you never thought possible. Are you ready to open your life up to that power? The more you embrace the abundance of God, the more you will see His divine favor unfold in your life. You will no longer live in fear of what might happen tomorrow, but with the knowledge that God is already in your future, preparing the way for you. As you walk in His abundance, you will begin to see how His plans are greater than anything you could have imagined. So, I ask you again, what is standing in the way of you fully receiving the abundance that God has prepared for you? Is it fear? Is it the need to control every aspect of your life? Is it your inability to trust in His perfect timing? Remember, as God's chosen ones, you have been marked for a life of abundance. Not the kind that the world promises, but the divine abundance that comes from walking in alignment with His will. It's a life of peace, joy, and fulfillment. One that brings light to the darkness and hope to the brokenhearted. This is the abundance that you were meant to live in. As you continue this journey, trust that God is doing immeasurably more than you could ever ask or imagine. The best is yet to come. Your presence and prayers mean more to us than words can express. As you reflect on today's message, we encourage you to like this video and share it with others who need to hear this truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel so you can continue to receive uplifting content like this. Your subscription is a simple yet powerful way to support the mission and help us grow this community of believers. And don't forget to leave a comment below. Share how this message has impacted you, how God has been working in your life, or whatever is in your heart. Your testimony inspires us and countless others who come here to seek God's light. As you move forward, may you be reminded each day of God's unwavering love for you. May He bless you with the wisdom to make the right choices, the strength to face every trial, and the peace that passes all understanding. Know that He will open doors of opportunity, protect you from harm, and continue to guide you every step of the way. You are deeply loved by God, chosen and uniquely equipped to fulfill His purpose in your life. Continue to walk in faith, trusting that God's hand is on you. Thank you for being here today. We pray for you and your loved ones to be blessed, and we look forward to seeing you again in our next message. Be strong, be faithful, and remember that God's protection is always with you. Be richly blessed.